Yeah, first ever attempt at podcasting. I thought I'd get a bit of a bush footy legend and a bloke that played a fair bit of footy in Sydney, played in the inaugural State of Origin. First guest up is Mr. Jim Leis. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, good afternoon, Scott. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, bud. Good, thanks. Good to get together and have a chat. So, yeah, I'll just
No worries about
throw
that.
some questions at you and you can throw some answers at me and we'll see what we come up with, eh?
Yeah, no worries at all, mate.
Alrighty, so we'll kick it off. What's your earliest memory of rugby league?
Um, I went to school, it's a Catholic school in Tamworth, and listened to the Kangaroos and watching the great St George sides, like Reg Gasnier and Johnny Raper. They were my heroes as a kid. And I think I was 6 when I played my first game of footy for St Mary's Catholic school in Tamworth.
Okay.
For 4 stone 7s.
Wow. The old wait for age, eh?
Yeah, good. Very fond memories. We played in red and white, and in the St George colours. So I assume that's why I decided I would become a mad St George supporter.
Very good. You picked a good era to do it, that's for sure.
What was that?
You picked a good era to do it, like during that golden run.
Well, I assume that yeah, I think a lot of people tend to go for the high profile clubs when they're kids because they get the most information on the news and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess the match of the day and all that kind of thing as well, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Did you play other sports when you were a young fella, or
I played a lot of different sports. I played cricket, soccer, and footy. Yeah, but footy was my most passionate
yeah?
by a fair bit.
Oh, nice, nice. So yeah, you've knocked out about four of my questions there with that first answer. That's okay. We covered a
Yeah,
few
that's
there.
that's no worries at all. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. So, on like in the early days of your career, who would have been the biggest influence on you as a player?
Well, as I say, when I went to school, yeah, my dad rallied around at the school. I was born in Tanafil, but I started school in Tamworth when I
Oh,
was
nice.
6,
Yep.
and he rallied around and got a footy side to get going at school, and he was my junior coach from 6 till 12. So he was definitely my major influence because I think your junior coaches are your most important coaches as far as learning all the little ins and outs of
Yeah, that's
of of any sport.
the development side of it,
And he
isn't it?
was, yeah, he was there, and yeah, he taught me how to tackle and pass the ball and do all those other little skills. And so, yeah, I'd say my dad was my biggest influence as a young child.
And with club footy up there, was that North Tamworth from an early age, or
Um, no, in when I came through, all football was in the schools.
yeah?
So, like, I had 3 years at St Mary's, and then I went to Christian Brothers College at year 4, um, and played for played for the school. Like in it was age group at school,
Yep.
and then at, sometimes they had carnivals, and those were in weights. And I was a rather big kid, so I used to have to play 2 or 3 years up in the weight divisions, which was a bit of a challenge. But I think when you look back on it, that probably helped me a lot in my footy playing against older kids in the weights.
Okay, excellent. So, but on a as a club side on a weekend, did you play? What age did you start that up there,
Um,
like outside of school football?
well, no, there was no outside
Okay,
school
I
footy.
see. So,
It was just the school footy on Saturdays, and then during the year they used to have 3 or 4 sports
okay,
carnivals up in the northwest. There was one at Narrabri. Tamworth was huge in those days. Had Peel Schools carnivals, and Armidale was a big one. And then if you won 2 or 3 of those, you got the opportunity to come and play down in the state knockout in weights,
yep,
and that was played there at Moore Park, across from the Sydney Cricket Ground and stuff like that.
yep,
And we also had our minor league rep sides, so in age group, and there was a reciprocal where we played against Eastern Suburbs juniors and Illawarra juniors. So like Slippery Morris, and he was he was a year older than me. Roddy Henniker was the same age as me, so they were both from Illawarra, and I remember playing against Rod Henniker as a kid from under nines through to under 13s, I think.
wow,
Yeah, yeah, and I think um, another. I think Peter Tunks was in the Eastern Suburbs Junior in one of those years as well. So he must have been about the same age as me, or thereabouts as well.
okay. So quite a little bit of rep footy coming through at a young age, like through those teenage years.
Yeah, yeah, there was. They were fun days. Like catching the train from Tamworth all the way to Big Smoke in Sydney, or to Illawarra. Yeah,
Would have been quite
down
a
at,
thrill too, yeah, at that age. Bit
yeah, we used to
bit
get
city bloke.
billeted out with other people, and I remember one year younger than me, a good mate of mine, Quentin Bailey, he got billeted with Clive Churchill,
Oh wow.
because his his son Rodney is a year younger than me, and he was playing rep footy in the Eastern Suburbs Junior. So we're all very envious of Quentin getting billeted out with Clive Churchill.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Well, it was for him. We were all jealous.
Did any of the blokes that you played with in the was it Group 4 back then? Was it known as Group 4? Yeah.
Well, that was minor league, and in that era, um, like
Yep.
Werris Creek played in the Tamworth Junior League as well.
Yep.
So um, Peter Wynn, he's a year older than me. He used to play in the Tamworth rep sides a year older, and a bloke by the name of Graham Wynn, he was a year younger,
Okay.
and so they played in the Tamworth rep sides with us, and another gentleman by the name of Orb LeBrock.
Yep. I've heard that
He
name.
Orb came down and played a few seasons with North Sydney,
Yep.
and he was a standout junior star as well. And yeah, I think he had 3 years or so with North until he done his knee in and then went back.
Again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there was there's a lot of good footballers from up that way, and I think I got picked in the Northern Division under 18 side the next year, um, and they played a country championships, and Northern Division beat Western Division in the grand final, and we had a bloke by the name of Stan Jerd playing in that side, and he scored with about 1 minute to go. We were behind, and we got the victory. Big
Wow.
Stan, Big Stan scored a try underneath the post, and I seen him recently, and he reminded me of that when I walked past Peter Witt's sports store. He was out the front,
Yeah, he's
him
always
and
out the
Peter
front
are out there, so I
cruising, isn't
caught
he?
up with them. I caught up with him, and he reminded me um, of that. And I thought, yes, very fond memories. And I think out of that junior side, there was about um, 6 guys that ended up playing.
Would David Brooks have been
Um,
around that time, or a little bit after your
beg your
time?
pardon?
David Brooks,
No,
sort of a
Brooks
couple
is
of
a fair
years
bit. Yeah,
after. Yeah.
he's a fair bit younger than me.
Yep.
Yeah, but I did play um, with Brooksy. He was only, I think he was only 16 or 17, playing for North Tamworth Juniors,
Yep.
and he was that good a player that a bloke by the name of Russell Worth, the coach from North Tamworth in the seniors, he played him in first grade as
That
a
age.
16 or 17-year-old kid.
Wow. So destined,
Yeah,
always destined for bigger things, eh?
yeah, and that was 1979. Russell Worth coached me in the North Tamworth. That was senior sides. Um, and then yeah, but I'll go back a little bit. My first year in first grade was 1977, so I got selected in country in 1977 and 78. Yeah, so I got to play with blokes like Ray Brown and Slippy Morris and the two Win boys, and like there was heaps of those guys in those sides. In those days, it was very much a pathway to Sydney.
Yep.
I think it was 78 or 77 or 78 out at Moree. We got to play the touring New Zealand side,
Okay.
and in 1979 we got to play the touring Great Britain side at um, in Tamworth at Scully Park. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I got to play with a really good mate I became of. We married a Tamworth lady by the name of Michael Adams, who was a, a witness legend and Great Britain international.
Well, you didn't play in the UK at all in those days, or like
Beg your pardon?
did you have any stints in the UK during those years? Like I know
No,
it
no,
was very
no, no.
fashionable back
Oh,
then.
no. I started an apprenticeship as an aircraft engineer when I left school, so I was sort of
Time took its toll for it.
studying to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, from 1974 to 77. So I was sort of never really just played winter sport, and then on and summer was always cricket as well.
Okay. Batter, bowler, keeper.
A bit of a wicket keeper and a bit of a batter. I thought I was a reasonable leg spinner, but I think the batsmen enjoyed my leg spin bowling more than the captain I had in the side at the time. Yeah,
No faith, eh? No faith in the bowler.
the batsmen licked their lips when I got on the bowl with leggies. Played country in 1977, and North Sydney gave me a ring, and I always wanted to go to Sydney. Um, and they offered me a small contract to sign for a couple of years at North Sydney.
Okay.
And I said I wanted a certain amount of money, and they said we would have to trial for that. So in '78, in the pre-season, uh, I trialled with North Sydney. I had 2 trials with North Sydney. Um, I think one was against Curry and the other was Lake Macquarie or something like that.
Yep.
And there was two Tamworth people playing for North Sydney at that time. Keith Harris and Orb LeBrock were still were at North, and
You
Keith looked after me, took me to train, and I sort of knew him.
bit of familiarity.
Yeah, well, he's a North Tamworth junior as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so but they offered me the deal after trial, and I went home in 1977 and decided to stay in the bush. Yeah, and they offered me the same deal in 1978,
Yeah, we're definitely keen
but
to get you down there.
but yeah, and then when that gentleman by the name of Russell Worth that we were talking about in 1977, he was captain coach at North Tamworth
Okay.
that year, and he uh, sort of said you should give Sydney a go, and he played first grade at Balmain and Western Suburbs, so
Yep.
um, ended up having a meeting with Western Suburbs, and they offered me a, a very decent contract, I thought, and I was turning 20. I was 21 at that stage, and I thought if I don't go to Sydney now, I may regret um, not not giving it a go.
Yeah, the opportunity
Yeah,
might not come around
so
again.
that's how I ended up at Western Suburbs. Yeah, through a gentleman by the name of Russell Worth, who ended up captain coaching my junior club, North Tamworth, and obviously um, West had a little bit of money to offer a few of us reasonable country kids because they lost Ray Brown and John Dorry and Les Boyd to
Yeah,
Manly, and Tommy and Steve Blythe and Graham O'Grady
mighty
to
Jacks.
Newtown that year, so that they bought a few of us country kids, and that's how I ended up at the mighty Western Suburbs. And um, I couldn't imagine um, not playing for Western Suburbs. The memories in the club, how good they were to me, playing under Roy Masters and playing with a mate that I was one of my heroes, which was John Donnelly, like who was a Gunnedah boy, which is not far from Tamworth, and getting the opportunity to play with one of me. As I said before, I was a mad St George supporter, and Teddy Goodwin was one of my heroes, and I got to play with him at Western Suburbs. Um,
Such a
yeah,
time.
yeah. So that was great.
In so 1980, you debuted against Cronulla, right? Have I
Beg your
got
pardon?
in 1980 you debuted against Cronulla in round one? Would that be right? Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, when I went down, I signed a 2 year contract that would I thought I'd play reserve grade and maybe get an opportunity to play first grade halfway through the season. That was my uh, that was my marker when I decided to give it a go. Um, yeah, I think we had two or three different country trials in those days. The Sydney sides used to go to the country and play a few trials, and then they had that Craven
Craven Mile
pre
Cup.
Craven Mile pre-season cup.
Yep.
Yeah, so I played like first grade squads in those, and then come the first round, I was selected in my uh, first grade game to play at Cronulla at Shark Park.
Yep. What was the step up in the pace? What did you find most, I guess, confronting about the different levels of football from where you'd been to
Well,
where you now were?
well, I sort of was a little bit used to that sort of pace to a certain degree because we Northern Division had played in the MCO Cup, so we got opportunity to play like combined Brisbane sides and also got the opportunity to play like as I said before against New Zealand and Great Britain. So you were sort of used to the intensity.
Yep.
Um, so to me, it didn't surprise me the speed of the game, but like week in week out, I think that played a toll in the back end of the season. I wasn't used to playing that intensity week in and week out. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, the grind kind of wears you down a little bit as the season
Yeah,
goes on.
where when you're playing rep footy, you sort of go back and you play a high intensity game, and then you sort of go back and chill out. Um,
It sort of kind of mentally drain you too, wouldn't it? Because you've got to be up every week.
yeah, it's getting used to the week in week out high intensity because every game was a high intensity where playing in the bush you could sort of cruise through a few games, and I was probably guilty of that in my first year towards the back end of the season. That um, yeah.
What was the thrill like in your second match against Penrith? You scored 4 tries. Like, probably thinking, well, how easy is this?
Well, I played a lot of backs in my junior footy. I never really played in the forwards much, except for rep footy. Like I grew up like when I played for St Mary's and uh, Christian Brothers College when I was young. Like I was the halfback. So
Okay.
um, so I was sort of used to being in the mix, and but when I was playing seniors, like under 18s in first grade, I've only played in the centres and 5'8" and stuff like that.
Yep.
So so I was sort of used to scoring a few tries in the bush, but it was just actually a shock. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, um, and I at the end of the game I scored 4 tries, and everybody's all over me in the media. Uh, who is this guy? Sort of thing, and
Kind of
but
announced
my
your name.
hero Teddy Gilby brought me back down to earth very quickly. He said, "I was right next to you. I should have scored those tries." And I went, "Oh, thanks, Teddy." So so it wasn't something unusual, and like I never really give it too much thought when it happened. To be quite honest, it
Yep.
was I just took it in stride. But
Just another game.
yeah, but I must admit that it was heaps of media attention, and definitely wasn't used to that. And I was a shy country boy, so I didn't like to get interviewed by reporters or someone putting a microphone in your face with a camera on.
So it'd be very, very
Uh,
daunting from where you came from.
yeah, I was very much a shy country boy, so I didn't really enjoy that part. I was, I think I'd rather go out and play footy than and play against the best in Sydney than say Rex Nosser putting a camera in front of me and asking me a few questions.
Yeah, kind of
That
be,
was a lot harder work for me than going out and playing a game of footy.
what was Roy like as a coach? What was it like playing under Roy?
Um, well, he had a connection to Tamworth as well.
As
Like,
a school teacher?
yeah, he was a school teacher at the Tamworth High School. He took the first Australian schoolboys away um, in the early 70s, and like I was on the other side of the river as a Christian Brothers, and Tamworth High in those days had great, great sides. And they were sort of my local heroes to a certain degree um, as a football kid growing up because I used to love going and watch the school footy and watch Tamworth High play against other schools. Um, yeah, and he was just excellent, Roy. Excellent motivator, let you play your own natural game within the structures that he created, and certainly got us psyched up before the game. Um, yeah, it was a little bit scary, was it? Getting us to want to belt the crap out of each other before we had to go out on the field
Face slapping, eh?
and try to belt the crap out of everybody else. Roy loved his violence, and he was that theory was so correct that if you went out and won that battle in that first 10 to 15 minutes and then played football, um, I think that's how you win most games, and that's still true today. Even though it's a sort of different sort of violence these days to the introduction that I got. I think someone asked me the question about which is regressing to where you were talking about before, which was my greatest influence as a kid, and that was my dad.
Yep.
Um, but Roy was probably my biggest influence when I got to Sydney. I certainly had to learn to fight playing with Western Suburbs.
And it took you under
Like,
his wing.
yeah. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed the 2 years under Roy Masters at Western Suburbs. Looked after me. I got my first um, city Guernsey, got my first state Guernsey, and got an opportunity to tour with Australia, to New Zealand, and Roy. Without Roy's influence in that first year, I don't think I would have achieved those goals without having a great coach like Roy.
It was a whirlwind first year. You've got the Dalian Lock of the Year, the interstate jersey, the state of origin, the tour in New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a dream introduction, really. When I look back on it now, like it all happened so fast when I went there. But as you get old and look back, absolute dream first year in Sydney footy. Yeah, get this. As I said, City, Guernsey, two state games. One of those, the first day of Origin, a tour uh, to New Zealand with the Australian side, and we led the comp for a large percentage of the year with West, and I think we got second or third, and I got to play in two games at the SCG in the final series. And we got smashed by East in the preliminary final before we so one short of the grand final. So
Yeah, wow.
as far as first year footy was unbelievable.
Doesn't get much better, does it?
Well, it sort of balanced itself out in the second year. So I did. As I said, it was a long year. I think I started the season about 13 and a half stone in those days. And by the end of the season, I just was kept losing weight. That week in, week out of footy, obviously it was taking its toll. I was eating as much as I possibly could, working full-time job as well as training, and having morale beers with the Western Suburbs boys after training. They call it bonding sessions now. I ended up the season about 12 and a half stone, so I'd lost a stone over the season. So the second year I decided I needed to get bulk up, and I didn't do enough running in the off season. So I came into pre-season the next year, tore a hamstring, did two shoulders, tore a knee cartilage, which sort of affected me for the rest of my career. Really, ended up getting that knee replacement at an early age. So even though I had a very good year, first year, the second year was very much back to earth.
So you must have missed
Spent
quite
most of the season. Beg your pardon?
You must have missed quite a bit of football then in year 2, yeah.
I think the second year, I think I played 14, half the first grade games. Missed, yeah.
Okay.
But I played a lot of those games with injury, which I probably shouldn't have done anyway.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, yeah. So after that second year, I mixed things up and went back to the sort of training that I had done previously.
Kind of work for you.
Yeah, that I'd done when I was in the bush. I went back to that sort of. I still did weights, but I did I did a very good, strong pre-season. Yeah, learn a lesson.
What was Dallas like to play with and to be around as far as characters and whatnot go?
Well, I playing lock behind a very scary pack of forwards with like Bruce Gibbs, John Donnelly, Terry Lubert, Tommy Arbour were the front rowers in the years of West. Dallas was just such a character, um, and there was a reason why they called him Dallas was because he was so large, and he just, because of his big body, he just attract characters galore, and he was just absolute gentle giant. But with the legendary stories, he's obviously uh, very enjoyed the social side of football as well as the violent battles on the field.
And no doubt many a bonding session, as we say.
Uh, yeah, I think if I had as many bonding sessions as Dallas, I don't think I would have played any more football. I, there's no way I could have kept up with Dallas's pace. He seemed to able to handle it, but I couldn't.
Yeah. What about that first interstate game? What did you like? What was the feeling around? Did you just kind of gather that you were
Well,
kind of creating something special? That like you look at it what it
I
was
never.
then and what it
Well,
is now.
well, just coming from the bush the first year, like as I said, it all went really quick. It all on the plate. I was just so excited, like to get the opportunity to play for New South Wales, and I played off off the bench. I got picked to reserve the game previously before the start of Origin theory. I was just when my name was announced, I was so thrilled that just to get the opportunity to play for New South Wales, I never give it any thought about um, what significance State of Origin was all about
Yep.
until I got to Lang Park in those days. It was played at Lang Park.
Yep.
I think the side was announced on Sunday night. I think we had a medical Monday, went up Tuesday and played Tuesday night or Wednesday night, I can't remember. But I certainly knew that something was on. Um, Tommy was out, New South Wales captain, and the roar when Hardy Beats had come out on the ground at Lang Park was just unbelievable. So that's when I knew it was going to be on for young and old,
Kind of up against it.
and and by far the fastest game I ever played in, and the game has sped up so much since 1980. I can't imagine how fit and how people can put their body through what they do today compared
Yeah.
to what it is now.
That interchange
Yeah,
has just sped it right up, hasn't it? Now they're athletes.
yeah, well, the interchange, but the game, State of Origin is so fast. It's just it's scary for me to think what those people can put their body through, and the mental side of it.
100%. So yeah, so 83 you started at the Bulldogs after leaving West. That must have been a pretty good time too, because that was probably a very successful era for the Dogs too in the 80s.
Well, yeah, I had, as I said before, I had 2 year contract. I got off. I got offered in 81, and then in 82 I got offered quite a big contract to go to Penrith. But I decided to stay loyal and stay at West in 83, and I really enjoyed that. I'm glad I did. Got to play under Terry Fernley, and then after that year, um, yeah, West was struggling for money, and Canterbury offered me a reasonable deal, and West couldn't match anywhere near the money, and that's how I ended up at Canterbury under Ted Glossop for the first year. And for some reason, he didn't pick me a lot in first grade. I come off the bench a lot, but um, but the club still made the final, which was a success as far as the club was concerned. And then Teddy left, and they employed Warren Ryan for. So I had I'd signed for a 3-year deal, so 83, 84, 85, and the other 2 years were under Warren Ryan, who was absolute great coach, scientist as far as
tactics and breaking
rugby league is concerned, as far as the way to defend and attack, and brutal. And basically, I believe that we were that strong that we basically had around about two first grade packs of forwards, and probably close to the same in the backs. So it was always huge competition for first grade Guernseys, which was good for the club.
I guess you had a young Paul Langmack too that come along and played your position.
Oh yeah, well that's what I said. Like it was just great players. They bought me as a lock, and I mean Steve Folkes was a lock, and Mark Hughes was still at the club the first year. He's a lock, and as I said, when Warren took over, Langers was starting to mature and play. He was up to first grade at a very young age. I think he debuted at 18. And Terry Lamb came over from West in that 84 season as well, because I played with Terry 80, 81, 82 at West, and then he came over to Canada, back to his junior club in 84 as well.
So from there you went to Cronulla in 86, 87. How did that work out?
Yeah, well, I had previously I said that I had that knee injury in 81, the second year.
Yep.
It was giving me a lot of grief. I had a big operation on it, and I rang Terry Fernley. I thought I still had a little bit to give, and he had a yarn to Jack Gibson. So I ended up having 2 years at Cronulla, 86, 87, but they were 2 busted up years, pretty much.
Injury plague, yeah.
I did another cartilage, dislocated my shoulder, tore a groin. Had to have an operation on it as well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the time at Cronulla under Jack Gibson for those 2 years. But I didn't play much first grade. I spent most of the time in the doctor's surgery.
Rehab.
Yeah, doing rehab and stuff like that, yeah.
What would you say was the greatest moment of your career?
First year under Roy Masters, with all those achievements. First year under Roy Masters, with all those achievements. And then being part of the squad in 84 when we won with the Bulldogs, won the comp. I think I played the first 11 games, and then I tore a hammy, and then, as you mentioned before, Langmack came into the side, was playing great. I cut my hand and was out for 3 months. Um, Getting over the injury. By the time I got back, it was only one or two games for the semis. But '84 was a great year for the club, and been part of the Bulldog era of '84, '85 when they won back to back premierships were great memories. So '84.
And who would you say was the greatest player that you played with and against?
Well, probably Terry Lamb's probably the best player I played with. I had 3 years with at, at West and 2 years
Dogs.
at Canterbury. But when I went to Cronulla, there was a really good young crop of kids coming through there, and Andrew Attenhausen was definitely a standout. He was only a young baby at that stage, but he, he would, as far as backs concerned, Terry Lamb and Andrew Attenhausen is probably two of the best backs I've played with. Um, uh, Ray Price was a great footballer that I had to play with, play against. So I'd say forward wise, Ray Price.
You have a
Um, uh, and the, at Canterbury, there were such tough players. Billy Johnson and Peter Kelly were great forwards.
Yep. Did you have a?
And Kel,
Oh, you go. Yeah.
oh yeah, Kel was Peter Kelly was very tough, but he had a lot of ball skills as well. I was very impressed with the way he he played the game and his attitude to the game. Yeah.
Great player of the '80s, that's for sure. Did you have a favourite ground that you liked to play at, or at least
What was that again?
favourite footy ground that you liked to play at, or one that you just didn't really? didn't,
Well, oh, most definitely. I I have very fond memories of Leakum Oval, which was my first ground. Played the local derbies against Parramatta, Canterbury, and Balmain at Leakum Oval, as well as Manly, the Silver Tails at Leakum Oval. Uh, but by far, the energy and the memory of getting to the SCG was just a huge buzz for me. But SCG by far is the favourite ground. Yeah, the memory, walking into the members and seeing the history of the cricket as well as the rugby league in those in the members' dressing room just gave you such a buzz. So that's by far Sydney Cricket Ground for sure.
When you finished up in Sydney, did you continue to play in the country? Or were you a captain coach up on the north coast at one point too?
Yeah, I had 8 years all up in Sydney, and when I was at Cronulla, yeah, they sort of asked me was I interested in staying another year. I said no, I'm too old. I can't keep up. I'm getting more injuries. Keep trying to keep up with the speed of the game. So I wanted to go to the coast. So I ended up getting an opportunity to captain coach Maxwell of the Nambucca Valley for 2 seasons. So I thoroughly enjoyed that side of things as well.
What about what's your thoughts on the modern game? You a fan of all the changes of the way the game's evolved, or
Um,